The version of you who takes bold action, who speaks without shrinking, who walks into rooms and shifts the energy, is not a fantasy. That version already exists. And this is how you meet them. You weren't born with doubt. You were taught it. Conditioned to question your light, to hold back your truth, to scan for permission before you move. And somewhere along the way, you stopped trusting yourself. Not because you were weak, but because the world rewarded your silence more than your expression. That's how confidence erodes. Not in one moment, but in tiny decisions, in hesitations, in nodding when you meant no, in shrinking to fit spaces you were meant to lead. But what if the real you was never lost? Only buried beneath fear, past wounds, and 1,000 quiet compromises. Quantum confidence isn't about pretending. It's not a mask. It's not a posture. It's not louder voices or sharper suits. It's a frequency, a way of being that says, I trust myself even before the evidence shows up. I believe in my direction, even when no one else understands it. I am safe to be seen, because I'm no longer hiding from myself. This is not motivation. This is recalibration. And the shift begins. Now, you think it's just hesitation, a pause, a delay, a quiet voice. But self-doubt has a cost. And it's not small. It steals the job you didn't apply for, the words you never said, the room you walked into and disappeared in. It keeps you in cycles, in careers that drain you, in relationships that cage you, 9 versions of yourself that no longer feel alive. All because somewhere in your nervous system, you decided it was safer to shrink than to risk being fully seen. But safety isn't the same as fulfillment. Comfort isn't the same as purpose. And surviving isn't the same as living. You know this. You feel it every time you silence your truth just to keep the peace. Every time you delay a dream because you're waiting to feel ready. But readiness doesn't come before the leap. Confidence isn't a reward, it's a ritual. And the truth is, most people don't fail because they're not talented. They fail because they never fully show up. Because fear whispers, what if I'm not enough? And they listen. But not you. Not anymore. You're here now. And you're about to remember who you were before the world told you to forget. Confidence isn't a feeling you chase. It's a signal you tune into. You don't wait for it. You generate it. From within. From the inside. Out from the part of you that remembers your worth even when the world forgets it. We've been taught to believe confidence looks like being loud, dominating the room. Never feeling fear, but quantum confidence is quieter than that, more powerful than that. It's not about volume, it's about clarity. It's the way you speak, even when your voice shakes. The way you choose yourself, even when no one else does. The way you walk into uncertainty and trust the next step will rise to meet you. Because confidence isn't about being fearless. It's about not being ruled by fear. It's a frequency, vibrating through your thoughts, your posture, your choices. It's in the breath you take before you speak your truth. The stillness you hold when someone tries to rattle you. The knowing in your gut that says, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be real. When you tune into that frequency, you don't just think differently. You become different. And the field responds, because energy doesn't lie, and the universe doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to who you are. You weren't born doubting your voice. You learned it, somewhere between be quiet and don't be too much. Between the time you were laughed at and the time you were ignored. Confidence didn't disappear. It was buried. Beneath rejection, beneath shame, beneath the memory of trying once and failing. These are the invisible barriers, the quiet ghosts that follow you into interviews, into conversations, into dreams you never tell anyone about. They whisper, don't try again, but play it safe, stay small. And we believe them. Because fear is convincing, because pain remembers, because failure once felt permanent, So we started treating risk like a threat. But here's the truth. Most people never say out loud, you didn't lose your potential. You just stopped trusting it. And when trust goes, so does action. So does presence. So does power. You begin to hesitate, overthink, second. Not because you're broken, but because your past taught you that shrinking was safer. But safety is not your destiny. Your soul is not here to be hidden. It's here to be liberated. And that liberation doesn't start with someone believing in you. It starts with you remembering what you've buried and choosing to unlearn the lie. Confidence doesn't return in a single moment. It comes back in layers. One breath, one choice, one tiny act of courage at a time. The turning point isn't when you finally feel ready. It's when you act before you feel ready. When you choose to trust the step you can't fully see yet. When you take the risk, even with shaking hands. Because trust is built in motion. It's built every time you honor your own voice, even when it's uncomfortable. It's built every time you give yourself permission to take up space. And here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to start with massive leaps. You start with the smallest steps, with saying what you really mean, even when it feels easier to stay silent, with doing something today that your future self will thank you for, with allowing yourself to be seen even if it's imperfect. Self-compassion is the foundation, because you can't hate yourself into confidence. You can't criticize yourself into growth. You rise when you start treating yourself like someone worth rooting for. Visualize your boldest self, the version of you who already lives the life you crave. See them, feel them, and then ask, how would they act today? Not tomorrow, not next year today. Every time you step into that version. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was an artist, a quiet one. The kind of soul who painted galaxies but couldn't look strangers in the eye. Her work was beautiful. But herself, doubt was louder than her talent. Years passed in silence, sketchbooks filled with dreams that never touched daylight. She told herself stories. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. What if they laugh? Until one day something shifted. She didn't wake up fearless. She just got tired. Tired of hiding. Tired of wondering what if, tired of betraying her gift. So she made a single decision. One email. One gallery submission. One step toward the version of her she always imagined. She expected rejection, but something else happened. They said yes. Her art was accepted. Her work was seen. And suddenly, so was she. That moment didn't just change her career. It changed her identity, because when you take one act of courage, you break the spell of fear. Sarah didn't stop there. She began to trust herself in new ways. She collaborated, she taught, she led. And the most powerful part, her confidence wasn't built after the success. It was built before it, in the silence, in the risk. In the moment she chose her potential over her fear, Sarah didn't become someone new. She became who she always was. Once she stopped doubting it. You don't wait for confidence. You practice it, every single day. In the smallest, quietest choices, when no one's watching. That's where the shift begins. Quantum confidence isn't a one-time epiphany. It's a daily embodiment. A ritual of remembering who you are before fear had a voice. It starts with mindset, not the kind that forces positivity, but the kind that gently redirects your attention from what's missing to what's possible. Start by noticing your strengths, noticing what you've already survived, noticing that you are still here. And that means something, then practice. Self-compassion, speak to yourself like someone worth protecting. Catch the inner critic in mid-sentence and interrupt it with truth. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are becoming. Visualize your next version. The confident one. The bold one. The one who walks in certainty, even when things are unclear. See them, stand like them. Speak like them. Move like them. And then, take the risk. The small one. Say yes to the opportunity. Post the work. Start the conversation. Apply for the thing that scares you. Because the more you act from that version, confidence is not a destination. It's a momentum. A wave you create with consistent steps until it becomes a current strong enough to carry you into an entirely new life. Every time you trust yourself, you're not just building belief, you're building energy. And energy compounds. What begins as a whisper, "I think I can," becomes a knowing, "I am the kind of person who does this now." You start to see yourself differently. And when that inner image changes, reality adjusts to match it. Opportunities you used to miss, you notice them. Paths that once scared you, you walk them. Rooms that felt too big for you, you now belong in them. Because the outside always mirrors the inside. And when your identity shifts, your world follows. This is where the magic happens. Where confidence becomes freedom. Where one leap turns into a new rhythm. Where fear no longer leads the way because embodiment has taken its place. You don't need to manifest more. You need to embody deeper. Because once you become the version of you that already lives the life you want, you don't have to chase it. It begins to find you. Momentum builds belief. Belief builds action. Action builds Your nervous system remembers everything. Every time you stayed silent. Every time you played it safe. Every time you chose comfort over growth because the pain of rejection was too sharp to risk. That memory became programming. Not in your mind, but in your body. That's why confidence isn't just a mindset shift. It's a biological rewrite. You're not just changing thoughts. You're retraining your entire system to feel safe in your own power. So how do you reprogram it? Through repetition, through emotion, through action. When you take a risk and survive it, when you speak up and realize you're still loved, when you post the work, say the truth, show up anyway, your nervous system takes notes. It says, "This is safe now. This is who we are now. This is the new standard." And with every repetition, fear loses its grip. Doubt begins to dissolve, and a new pattern takes root, one built on trust, not fake confidence, not ego, but grounded, regulated, embodied power. You start to walk differently, decide differently, hold your boundaries like they're sacred, because now they are. This is how you rewire, not in theory, but in practice. In the moments where your old self wants to hide and your future self says, "Stand up, we're doing this anyway." And that's when you know the shift isn't coming, it's already begun. Confidence doesn't just change how you feel, it changes what you create. Because once you trust yourself, your energy shifts. Your voice gets louder, your vision gets clearer, and the world starts to respond. People treat you differently, not because they've changed, but because you have. You no longer seek validation, because you've already given it to yourself. That kind of inner certainty is magnetic. It pulls in aligned opportunities. It filters out relationships that drain you. It calls in rooms, roles, and realities that match your new frequency. Your creativity expands not because you have all the answers, but because you're no longer afraid to try, to share, to speak, to take up space. And that's the true gift of confidence. It's not just what it gives you, it's what it activates in everyone around you. You become a mirror, a permission slip, a walking example that says, it's safe to show up fully. It's safe to take the leap. It's safe to be seen. Your life becomes louder than your fear, and that life creates ripples into your work. So let's bring it all together. Quantum confidence isn't loud. It isn't perfect. It isn't something you wait to feel. It's a frequency you tune into. A signal you send through your thoughts, your choices, your energy. It's not about faking it. It's not about pretending to be fearless. It's about acting from trust, even when the fear is still there. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to remember yourself. The version of you who leads, who speaks with clarity, who dares to take up space without apology. You don't need more information. You need integration. Focus on your strengths. Speak to yourself with compassion. Visualize your next level self. Faye takes small, bold actions. Faye repeat until it becomes natural. Faye repeat until it becomes you. This is not magic, it's momentum. And it belongs to anyone willing to begin. Imperfectly, consistently, intentionally. The version of you who once shrank in rooms. They're no longer leading, because something new has been activated now. A remembering, a reclaiming, a rising. And once that version wakes up, the world doesn't get to ignore you anymore. This isn't just a video, it's a mirror. A reflection of who you've always been beneath the doubt, beneath the fear, beneath the quiet compromises that kept you small. Now is the moment you choose, not someday. Not when you are ready. Not when everything is perfect. Now, because confidence doesn't wait. It meets you when you decide to move. When you stop waiting for permission and start embodying your potential. You don't need to become someone else. You need to return to yourself. The version that already exists. The one who takes bold action, speaks with power. Walks into rooms and shifts the entire field. They are not a fantasy. They are not far away. They are you, unedited, unapologetic, unstoppable. So here's your invitation. Stand up, breathe, deeper. Speak the truth you've been holding back. Take the leap your future self is begging for. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. The moment you stopped negotiating with fear and started manifesting from knowing. You are no longer waiting to become. You are becoming. Right now. Right here. In this breath. Welcome to Quantum Confidence. Welcome to the version of you the world has been waiting for.